Absolutely not is normalizing the standard, period. If you bring the whole table, then you can sit with us. We're bringing all the uncomfy combos and creating an unapologetic space to drive the culture forward respectfully. Because it seems like everyone wants to keep their opinions in the comment section. Absolutely not. What is up, world? It's your girl, Alora, and we're back with your favorite episode of Absolutely Not the Podcast, hosted by yours truly, a girl with unpopular opinions. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes featuring some of your favorite topics. So let's hop right into it. Today on the show, I have Miss Fiona Fairbairn. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Also known as G's Get Lonely Too. She's your favorite TikTok girly. I'm so glad that you were able to be on the show today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Girl, of course. So I remember following you last year after your viral post about bimbofication. Not only was it funny, but you were also making some very valid points in a very comedic way. So from that specific post, you coined the term bimbofication. Could you tell us a little bit of what that means?
Well, bimbofication is just a lifestyle. I feel like there's so many branches to what bimbofication is. And I realized, especially just over a year of me starting the bimbofication, that it can mean many things, but it's mostly just tapping into your soft life, not taking life so seriously. Sometimes all you really got to do is just chit chat with the girls. You don't got to worry about everything, just focusing on being your best self. And sometimes, when you go out, like no thoughts, just vibes. That's all you got to do when you live out your days.
And I definitely feel like that's something that I struggle with just because I'm such I guess you could say an analytical person. Like me going out can never be just that. Like I'm always analyzing people, I'm always analyzing the atmosphere, and I'm always noticing annoying things. Like if I do something with my friends, I'm like, oh, I just realized that this is so deeply rooted in patriarchy. Or like if I'm reading a book or watching a TV show, it's the same thing. I wish that I could separate living from thinking.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a struggle that a lot of people have dealt with, just the overthinking. I know, for sure, I, have my moments as well. But I just realized how much better life was when you just kind of stop thinking in the weirdest way. And it's funny because I just been reading up on it, and this concept has been like a thing for, even athletes or people that, are in different career paths. I just read this book called Relentless, and it
Mm-hmm.
was talking about even like when athletes are in the zone, like they're not thinking, you're just doing. And so I just was like, I don't really, I'm sick of going into parties and like thinking of what everyone is gonna think of me, or going down the street and just thinking about that. It just gets rid of all the enjoyment in life. And sometimes I just want to not think about that. So I don't.
I love that. That is actually a word to live by. How exactly did this come about? Like, did a certain situation create this whole philosophy?
Well, it did start off as a joke, kind of, kind of on a more depressing note. Those jokes of, oh, I never want to go through a man's phone again.
Girl,
And
yes.
so I got out of a horrible, horrible relationship. And I was like, oh my God, like I wish I just never knew any of that. So it started off a joke of, oh, like I wish I didn't know that. But then it kind of went into, why do we like make ourselves suffer? And also it goes into like a weird spirituality that, another branch of bimbofication comes into. And it's like, let the universe show you what's up. Don't choose suffering, choose
That's so true.
happiness. And, that requires just letting go of the over analyzing and psychoanalyzing, because it's so easy to go into, oh, well, why did this person do this? What went wrong? But sometimes the only answer is they just did, and that's it.
True. That is so true. Honestly, you couldn't have said that better. I feel like I've stopped analyzing in certain areas of my life because, like, as far as relationships, like I don't know whether I'm too scared to go through a man's phone or if I just don't care enough to, but that's something that I just don't do anymore. I feel like for one, I've gotten more confident in myself to like, I mean, if I do find something, the world isn't going to end. But at the end of the day, I don't feel the need to go looking for something, especially if the relationship is good. Like at that point, whatever needs to be revealed will be revealed in time.
Exactly. Exactly. Like just letting things play out the way they need to. And that has been something I've learned throughout even like that past year, of blowing up on TikTok and just so many life events that's happening. I would have never predicted anything. And I think with that, I was like, why am I like impatient, like with the universe and like disrupting the natural flow when I can be, trusting and patient that even though like, even if something is rocky or even you never know what's going to happen,
Mhm.
right? And so just letting it flow is the most peaceful thing I've done, definitely, that I've learned last year. Like I said, I didn't know that I was going to blow up on TikTok. I didn't know that I was going to meet all the people that I was going to meet, that I was going to be in situations that I was in, but it happened. And there's a reason why that happened, because from that, like it was like a domino effect or a butterfly effect of so much happening in my life.
Absolutely. And you said something interesting, like surrendering to the process. So I know like sometimes I can be really hard on myself about where I am in life versus where I want to be. Well, I guess you could say I used to be, not so much anymore, just because I realized that I'm the type of girl, like I live for the plot. Every TV show that I watch, every book that I read needs lots of drama. So my life story needs that too. Like I can't have a boring testimony. Nobody wants to listen to a story about somebody that started something one day and was successful at it. There has to be something that adds to the plot. So most recently, I've kind of just been going with life. Hence this podcast. This was never like the goal for me or never really anything that I wanted to do. But it's something that kind of just happened. And so far, it's been really great. If I had just focused on my life plan that I'd written out and not surrendered to where life was taking me, I probably would have just been stuck chasing my tail.
Exactly. Like falling in love with the process, and getting this is my favorite quote that I live by. And it's funny that you bring up the drama, because I feel like my life is a never ending drama series. But nevertheless, I've realized that you could have fun with it. Once you realize, get rid of your thoughts and realize that embarrassment is a choice. Rejection is redirection, rejection is protection. And if you never get over your fear of rejection, you are going to forever have the fear of the unknown. Um, and so the biggest things in my life happened because I was like, fuck it. I really was like, I'm not gonna like think about what I'm gonna do right now. I'm just gonna do what feels right. And from there, like some of the most changing, like craziest things happened. And it brought kind of like good drama in my life, because it's like you get that adrenaline rush
Yeah.
of, you don't know if you're going to get rejected. You don't know if it's going to work, but you don't even care because you want to see what can happen if you do try it out.
Yeah.
So I definitely see that. And like, I just, even like, I don't know how to describe this, but it's more like just falling in love. I realized the happiest moments of my life is when I just was like in the moment, falling in love with the process and seeing like the plot and characters come in, like not looking up spoilers, not trying to, see what's up. just letting it go. And that's when the most exciting, fun things in my life has happened.
Girl, and you just said something when you said not looking at spoilers. I went through this phase in my life where I was like obsessed with readings. Like it felt like a cheat code for me. I've never been the type of person that could just live life. I always wanted to know what was going to happen next. I don't know why it's like that with life, but I don't ever feel like that when I'm watching a movie or a TV series or reading a book. But I used to have readings like all the time, and I always felt like, oh, okay, this is what's going to happen, so this is what I'm going to do to prevent this from happening or to ensure that it does happen. But I failed to realize that readings are based off of current energy, if that's something that you believe in, and whatever you do in that current moment can basically change the outcome of that. So while I was living my life to pretty much prevent certain things from happening, I was just creating chaos somewhere else, or like internal chaos.
And what's crazy with that I believe in is the more you focus on something, the more it's in your head. Even if you say, oh, I don't want this to happen, like whatever you believe in, whether it's psychology, whether it's God or the universe, it doesn't hear like, I don't. It just hears like what that thing is, right? And I was kind of so into readings and like tarot cards, and like I would get all paranoid and stuff.
Me too.
But I was like, I'm just gonna be patient and trusting and stop disrupting the natural flow, because you never know what that disaster, like what rainbow, what heaven that the apocalypse is bringing you. You know,
So
you
true.
never know what that's bringing you. And so I was just like, why? And also, I'm delusional. So if I get a bad reading and it's telling me that I'm about to break my leg, I'm like, absolutely not. And so I was like, what's the point of keep doing these readings if I just say no?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
No. Like there's no point. I might as well just let life go how it is. And like I said, like the best things, the happiest I've been is when it just goes like this instead of forcing and demanding things to happen.
I agree with you. I used to get readings on my career all the time. And what's funny is like they predicted everything except for the fact that I would have a podcast or that I would go viral on TikTok. And I just like, I was so focused on the career that I thought I wanted, which is great. Like that career is still something that's a part of my life. But at the end of the day, I made myself do this challenge where I stopped getting readings for like 30 days just to see if I could do it. And because I noticed that I started becoming heavily dependent on them, like I could not make a decision without them. Like I was just too in my head. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go 30 days without getting a reading and see how far I get. Those were like the best 30 days of my life. I had less anxiety. I didn't care what the future brought. I was just cool with whatever. I noticed that I was more willing to like go with the tide rather than fight against it. And it just made life so much easier. So after that 30 days, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and do 90. And now it's been years since I've gotten one. You know, like every now and again, if one of my friends reaches out, then I'll let her do one. But I don't focus my whole entire attention or who I am off of that reading because a lot of the things that they should have predicted, they never did. So
Yeah. And it's not really like reading related. Well, kind of, because you said some of the things that the readings you've got predicted accurately, but I would post some crazy stuff. Like at the time, I didn't realize like the power of like my tongue. I didn't realize the power of my thoughts. And I'll go back, 2, 3 years ago, and like it'll be like a relationship post or saying I'm gonna meet a certain person or something's gonna happen. And a few years later, it comes into fruition.
mhm.
And so I realized it was never about the reading, it's never about that. But I realized I have so much power in my tongue, I have
Mhm.
so much power in my thoughts. And after that, I was like, I am not saying anything that I don't want to happen. I will just rephrase it. If I don't want it to happen, I'll rephrase it into something I don't want. Like if I don't want to, oh, I don't want a toxic man, I'll say I want a healthy man, for example. And so I think realizing that and just like, I press not interested on tarot readings on TikTok. I don't
Me.
want to see it anymore. I don't want to see it anymore. They're cool and all, but I was like, I don't care about any of that because at the end of the day, I know it's up to me
Mhm.
and whatever I want, I can get. And it's been proven time and time again.
I guess you can say that readings actually kind of did serve their purpose, but in a different way, not in the fact that you believe in something, but the fact that we believe in ourselves. I feel like that's like the most powerful thing because I've noticed that too with things that I said in the past. Like I did always say that towards the end of my career, I wanted a talk show. Now, it's not the end of my career. It happens to be the beginning, but at the end of the day, I still ended up having a talk show. I mean, it's a podcast, but same thing. And
Yeah,
I always said that I wanted to be on like some sort of chart, whether that be billboards, iTunes, or whatever. And I was on the iTunes chart. So I definitely agree with you on that. We do have the power to pretty much manifest anything that we desire. And I need to get better about having my thoughts not necessarily like synchronized, but I need to get better at processing them because sometimes I will think bad things and I'll just let it fly when I really need to be rephrasing them.
exactly. Like you negative thoughts are a negative like are impossible to avoid, right? We are never going to be able, that's just the brain. And it's I say this to my friend, um our brain are literally still like, we evolution. Your brain is just trying to protect you because in the past you've gotten hurt before or you've gotten rejected. Your
Absolutely.
brain, because of the evolution, doesn't know the difference between physical pain and emotional pain.
Mm-hmm.
It feels the same. So when you are doubting yourself or when you have negative thoughts, you literally have to treat it like a cloud passing by and say, "Thank you, brain, for trying to protect me, but I am not dying. No, I'm not about to die. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna rephrase that and reframe as to what that means." Um, and honestly, yeah, that's just letting the thoughts go by clouds. And that's a technique I also tell people to do when it comes to like having no thoughts.
I love that. That's actually excellent advice. Could you give us some real life examples of bimbofication?
Well, I'll give an example of recently that I think is it's pretty funny. It's a little, oh my, I have a few examples. Okay, no, I'll just do this recent example. So I am in exchange in Amsterdam and they've just found my TikTok and everything. And it's so funny because they're like, Fiona, like, you come on here with full makeup every day, makeup done, everything. You don't really like, you seem like you're focused on so many other things. And then my grades come back and it will be like really good grades. And they're like, you actually practice what you preach. Because, like it seems like you're just like a pinky, like, haha, girl. And then you bamboozle all of us, legally blonde style.
That is so funny that you say that because I used to have that same struggle. I was actually going to say that like the word bimbo, when it comes to mind, you think of like a really pretty girl, but she's not pretty smart. So when I was like in school, I've always been like a girly girl. I've always been someone that cared about how I looked, cared about how I dressed. Just I've been interested in glam. So I used to always have like this internal battle. Like it was fine when I was in high school because everybody knew that I was smart, but it became an issue when I went to college. Because like I was in like a heavily science-based program. Like my major was heavily science-based. And so like we all had to be accepted. it was only 20 people that got in per year. So like on paper, I fit the description or I fit the mold of everyone. But on the first day of school, when I showed up and I'm like, I got my full glam of makeup on, I'm dressed from head to toe, my hair is slayed, I've got nails, and everybody else, like, you know, it's college, everyone just looks normal, like they're in pajamas or they're wearing sweats. And like my teachers used to give me a really hard time. I used to think like, oh, it's probably because I'm one of the fewer minority students, or maybe it's because I'm the youngest person in my program. But then I realized, I'm like, you know what? They don't take me seriously because they think I'm a bimbo. And so I used to always struggle with, okay, am I going to continue dressing and looking how I do every day, or am I going to like scale it back for the sake of being taken seriously?
Yeah. Well, I've, you know, struggled with that as well because, my whole life I've been a girly girl, but, I'm still focused on, getting my education. Um, but I seen this advice on Twitter actually, and I thought it was kind of funny. This is more like to like 9 to 5 jobs. And I see some people at school, and they make jokes and stuff. I don't really care. And I'm like, you guys are stressed out just to get the same grade as me. you know, just to get the same grade as me. So I'm like, you're judging for no reason. But the advice I saw on Twitter was, especially I think more when it comes to like 9 to 5 jobs or like group projects, if you sometimes show off too much that you could do everything, they're gonna make you do everything.
So
And
true.
it comes to life too. And people like, this is controversial in terms of like femininity, but like as like a woman, if you show them you could do every single thing and say, I don't need anyone in life, then they're gonna be like, okay, have fun doing that.
That is so
And
true.
then you're gonna be resentful that no one's helping you and that you have to do everything. Sometimes you don't have to prove that you are capable of everything and you could do like everything. And I think especially like, I'm Black and Indigenous, especially as Black and Indigenous women. Like, you don't have to be superhero all the time.
That is
You could let society help you. You could let people help you. I think it's just like a trauma response to be hyper independent.
yes.
But, I'm never afraid to say, I need my support system. Sometimes I need help. I can't do everything. I'm not Superwoman. I'm
Mhm.
not the Incredibles. So I think back to the point what I was saying, like if you show you could do everything and you tell everyone, I don't need your help, I don't need you, then everyone else is gonna say, okay, go ahead, have fun, and just take advantage of you doing everything and them sitting back.
Yeah, that is so, so true. And I'm glad that you said that because hyper independence is definitely something that I struggle with. And I do have a support system, but when it comes to asking for help, rather than branching out and asking like an expert, I just ask the same people that I always go to for advice. And sometimes that's not great because obviously, like if they knew the answer, I probably wouldn't be in this predicament.
Well, do you know what's funny? My biggest thing, because okay, yeah, I don't know if I can share this story time, but anyway, my biggest advice I've learned this year is you have the best ideas than anyone else. If you have a certain vision, how are you going to ask people what for directions if they've never been there? How would they know?
That
And
is so
so,
true. Girl, you
how
was
would they know? Like, especially when you have a vision and, like, like, no disrespect, but like sometimes it's just some people are very okay with being like mediocre,
yeah.
or some people are very, it's not their fault, but they have their own insecurities or fears, and it's not because they are doubting you, but it's because they can't imagine themselves doing it. So it's like, how can they give you advice if they can't even imagine it?
Yeah.
So I just shut the fuck up. I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna shut the fuck up because every single time I tell you, like I tell people I'm gonna do something, they're like, I don't know if that's gonna work. That's so stupid, this and this, not. And then that's the whole point of bimbofication. Like, you know what? You're gonna doubt me. It's gonna seem crazy. You're gonna call me Delulu, delusional. But I know that dream was planted in your heart for a reason. You
Absolutely.
wouldn't be able to think of it if God, the universe, thought you weren't able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't happen. You wouldn't even think of that, right? Um, so that's my definitely one of my biggest things. Um, so I just shut the fuck up. I journal it, keep it to myself. And I do have a therapist. I'll say to my therapist that actually has professional advice. Um, if it's too crazy. Um, but even then, like, shoot for the stars. Like, but I keep it to myself. I tell my therapist, I tell my journal, and honestly, things go a lot better when you just
Can't agree more. This podcast has been something that's been in the works for like a year. And like I was working with a management team because I had my own vision for the podcast. Like I knew how I wanted it to look. I knew like the aesthetics behind it, what message that I wanted to like present to the public. And I was working with this guy who like was kind of my manager or whatever. And he was great, but he was an older man. And so like his views were obviously very different than mine. And he didn't really grasp the concept of social media in the way that I did. Like he knew a few things here and there, like how to make a post, but he didn't understand virality or like the overall aesthetics of how a page should look and things like that. And so he and I butted heads a lot for like at least the first 6 months on how this whole thing should be rolled out, how it should go. And eventually I just like one day I woke up, I knew I wanted this to happen. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just like never going to call him again. And I'm going to do this how I want. Now, I might not get the amount of support that I would have gotten being affiliated with him. But at the same time, I know how I want this to go. And because God gave me this idea, I know that in time, it'll be successful the way I would like it to be.
And you know what? Especially this year, so many people have reached out to me to be my manager for management, whatever. Maybe I'm like a diva of some sort, but it's just like I, like I said, I don't want advice. I don't want directions from people who've never been in that position.
Yeah,
And, you're telling me what goes viral
but
with
literally my page
nothing to show.
viral. Yeah.
Like in the nicest way possible. Like, what do you have to show for that? Or do you have proof? Like, you're just a random
Yeah,
that's just messaging you. Like, or people will suggest crazy things like, oh, you should do OnlyFans.
absolutely not.
That's
I mean,
clearly not
no
what I want
offense
to
to
do.
anyone that does that, but like
Exactly.
it's
Like, I
definitely
think
their
you're
brand.
a perv. And so, especially with that, like, not gonna lie, like, some people have good advice, but I'm kind of like, it sounds good, but I'm not seeing evidence.
Hmm.
And, I think I know what to do. And, it goes for everything in life. Like, I hate unsolicited advice of
Hmm.
any sort. Um, so yeah, when it comes to relationships, social media, whatever, like, I think I'm on the right track. And if I want advice, I'll ask for someone that, I look up to or is in the position that I might want to be in.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more with that. And like you said, write it down in your journal, talk to your therapist. Because one thing I learned after my few years of living is never go to your friends for advice. They do not have the answer. If you're going to talk to anybody, talk to your therapist because they're going to help you analyze the situation. And 9 times out of 10, you leave the session answering the question yourself. Like you already have all the answers. And as far as having a manager just from one person to another, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but I definitely feel like it's not something that you would need because I think that you're doing a great job with your brand now. And like you said, you have all of the ideas. and the perfect way, the way that you've been executing it is what's working, I wouldn't do anything to mess up your analytics or the algorithm.
Yeah. I mean, like, I will say I have been taking a semi break from social media by accident.
I mean, it happens.
It wasn't like an intent. It just like, I'm moved to Europe. I'm in a whole, I just had a lot going on. And I'm just looking to like upgrade and see, I went this far with
Mhm.
no management, with no plan, with no nothing. How far can this go? You know, let's shoot for the stars. Like the opportunities I've gotten last year, and I haven't even reached like a million. I
Right.
haven't even reached 500K. And
Mhm.
the opportunities I've gotten, like not even just on social media, but like the people I've met, like the places I've been in, I've realized like this is what it is. Social media is like the foot in the door for any like for a lot of things you want to do in life, not even if you just want to be viral, right?
Absolutely. If you
Anything.
want a career in music, if you want a career in acting, because if you notice, like there aren't any real actors anymore. A lot of these people being casted in TV shows and movies are literally social media influencers or personalities.
And I made a video about this. It didn't go viral because it's out of my niche. A little too wordy for people.
I feel that.
I think celebrity culture is dying.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have new superstars. Where's this generation's Beyonce? We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think it's actually beneficial because anyone can be, anyone could be the next big thing. Anyone could be famous. And I think that's the route that we're going in, that we're no longer going to have superstars, but it's going to give more people the opportunity to blow up in their niche. And I actually made a whole report on unknown superstars. You could be the most famous freaking lamppost maker. You could be the most famous person on origami TikTok, and people are fanning out, trying to
Make
find you
your
for
shape
origami
feel
TikTok.
better. Yeah.
There's so many niches and ways to make it big, to make money. And nobody, if you think you don't have a niche, if you think you're not talented, like think again. You just need to find your niche and what's important to you.
That makes so much sense. And you know what? I always say that I don't have a niche, but anytime that I post something that's like different from my usual content, it won't go viral. Like whenever I do a get ready with me or like a vlog.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people will follow along with my vlogs if they're beauty related or like skincare. But if it's anything like lifestyle, people don't really care. But if I'm on there talking, like I think people um relate more to my personality than they do to like my actual like lifestyle content. So I'm trying to get better at posting. I've kind of taken a break too, just because I have so much going on by accident, but I plan to like try and get consistent with posting. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself to where it's not enjoyable.
Well, I am good friends with one girl who does social media, and she gave me great advice because I was saying, like I'm tired, posting every day gets tiring. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't get too much hate on it, but some people DM me personally and say some crazy stuff, and I'm like, ugh, like give it up, please. And so um what she said to me is, what you have to realize is your followers will still be there. They will still be there. Like if you want to take a break, come back, they will still be there. Especially like I've realized it's not about followers, it's about community. If you focus on, you know, a lot of my followers feel like I've made a lot of my friends off my followers. I still message them individually just from following me. Each time I'm on live, they're like, it feels like a FaceTime.
Yeah,
And it's because like it's more important, even if you look at people who do brand partnerships and stuff, they don't care about followers anymore.
that's
They
so.
care about how many of those followers actually engage and keep up with you,
Mhm.
right? So focusing more on like a community, feeling like this is a safe space for us, like you guys are my homegirls, you will get so much more engagement, you will get so much more money, you will get so much more brand deals.
Mhm.
And it just feels nice to like have people you could go up to, you know? Like I deleted all my Instagram posts the other day just because I wanted to restart my feed. And like three random people were like, "What happened? Are you okay? Like, do you need anything?" And I actually don't know them. And I was like, that's crazy that like I have this community of people and I noticed they start following each other that like we actually care for each other and it's just like it's all online.
Mhm. And people try to make social media out to be this terrible thing. And I mean, it definitely can be if it's not used in the right way, but I've seen more benefits from it than drawbacks, especially with like TikTok and this new age of like viral content. Cause it used to be so hard to go viral, but now I notice that like anytime I post something on TikTok, it will go viral. But I think I failed at building a community around my content. It's like it just goes viral. I get a lot of followers and then I fall off the face of the earth until I have another interesting thought. And then I'll post something and then boom, it goes viral and like the cycle repeats. But I don't actually like create content to keep people engaged.
Yeah. And I noted I just was like observing like other people, like especially in my city, because I was like, wow, like you don't even have, you know, you don't have a lot of followers. We're in terms of like, oh, you would what you would think people don't get paid a lot for. But
Mm-hmm.
I know a girl that has like 75K on TikTok making money, getting flown out for the Turks. And I was like, huh?
Wow.
I looked at it. It's because they are tuned in. I see her comments on her YouTube. They're like, I was waiting for this video. I was waiting for this. And she's consistent every day, always interacting, talking. And I think that's what people are forgetting or realizing now that
Mm-hmm.
it's not about the followers. It's not about you could go viral once and this is gonna sound mean, but to like I was outside once and these a couple of people were just talking about, oh my God, like I know you from TikTok. And this random girl came out to me like, oh, how many followers do you have? And I was like, oh, like I have like 180K. And she's like, oh, well, I have 300K.
Okay.
And I was like, that's crazy because these people are surrounding me because they know me and nobody knows you.
That
Like
is so
nobody knows you.
true.
You're not you're not creating memorable content. You're not creating a community. And that's the biggest aspect that you're missing. And that's why, like, you know, you can make so much. I know people that have like 10K making money, lots of money a month, just because they're able to create this niche and community. Um, and from that, that's what brands look at.
Wow. And I have been like hesitant to niche down just because I have so many interests. But honestly, it might be something that I think about in the coming months just because like I want to tailor my content to build a community.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Fiona, do you have like a piece of advice that you want to give to creators that want to be in the same position as you?
Um, don't stir away from controversy, but stay away from being problematic, if
Ooh,
that makes sense.
that's a
Don't be afraid if you have a wild thought and all your friends are calling you crazy, post it on TikTok. And
period.
people are gonna relate to it. And also, all engagement is good engagement. Don't delete the hate comments. Don't delete people fighting in the
Mm.
comments. Don't delete it. All engagement is good engagement. In my program, I actually took a social media class, and someone asked the professor, you know, I wanna post, I wanna be a content creator, but to be honest, it's embarrassing. Like, you know, I don't know what people are gonna say. And the professor said, well, if they don't like it, you realize they could just like unfollow you. Even such a simple answer, I was like,
That
that's
is
actually
true.
crazy because they can just unfollow you. Like they're not like, you know, if they hate it so much, they can mute you, they could unfollow you.
Mhm.
And that's just taking the trash out. That's like a filter because it's gonna bring in all the people that actually like what you have to say at the end of the day. So that's my biggest advice. If you're embarrassed or you think that people are gonna like call you cringe or hate it, if they don't like it, they could unfollow you, they could mute you. And otherwise, they're torturing themselves. Like, what does that have to do with you? So, yeah.
That is such great advice. And you hit the hammer on the nail when you said they can just unfollow you. And I've noticed that if they don't, that pretty much means that you've built like a cult following. Like people enjoy watching your content or they hate your content, but they don't want to look away.
Exactly. And that was kind of the piece I said, that don't be afraid of controversy, but don't be problematic. Because sometimes, even like myself, I'll be watching content creators and some things they post or say is so shocking and ridiculous that I can't stop watching it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like, oh my God, like this person's crazy. What else are they gonna say? You
Yeah.
know? Like what else are they up to? Like this person is so unhinged. But that's what, just in life in general, I've realized if you're a little unhinged, even just a little bit, you're like immediately taking out the crowd from other people. And I'd rather be respected than liked.
Yeah, no,
And
that
it sucks, but like I'd rather be respected than liked. And if this is controversial, but people, I read this book called The Daily Laws, and it was like you being talked about is better than you being ignored, especially if you're, even if it's like not the best. People say a lot of stuff about me, but guess what? They're still talking about me, and
period.
it's still getting my name out there. And
Mhm.
people from there are searching up my name and looking at my videos and engaging with it, and that's bringing more followers. Being talked about, being crazy is will make people remember you. First of all, you don't want to be dull,
Mhm.
and people aren't even gonna know why they watch you or like why they're so obsessed with you. But don't be afraid, and I feel like that's so basic advice, but don't be afraid to stand out, because even just a little action that's crazy is more bold than 95% of people out.
That is so true. And nine times out of 10, people will tune in because it's something that they really want to do, but don't have the courage to.
Yeah. I mean, I've made a whole platform on telling people to be stupid.
And
I made
everyone
a whole
follows your
platform,
advice now. We love that.
but I love that for them. I love that for me. I love that for them. I love that for us. But that's just like my biggest advice and even stuff that I've learned. And, if people are watching it, this is kind of advice if I were me, like it's because they actually like it. People like it in some degree. So don't let like an imposter syndrome of, oh, you know, what I say isn't that interesting. Like I don't deserve these followers, or, everyone else does this. No, there's a reason why you're blowing up, and just accept it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fiona. You dropped some gems on this show. I can't wait to post it.
I can't wait to listen to it all the way through.
Yes. And before we hop off, tell everyone where to find you.
I am GS Get Lonely Too on all platforms, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and I have my own podcast. I haven't released in a long time, but it's called the Bimbo Manifesto, and it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you guys are interested.
Hey, and I'm tuned into your podcast before. I loved it.
Yes, I love that.
We're waiting for new episodes, girl.
I'm about to drop it soon. I should say that, but actually soon. Soon.
Yay! Well, we're looking forward to it. And thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.